Hey guys, Mr. Zern here with another vocab lesson for Computer Science Essentials. And today we're going to be looking at two different terms, very similar, kind of opposite sides of the coin. And the first one is an incremental counter. And you probably have seen me use a couple of these up until this point with some of my beast mode assignments. And you're going to be using this in the guessing game app. If you haven't already gotten to it, you'll be doing one of this. And so basically it does a couple things. So typically we'll set up a global variable, and you can see there I've got guesses remaining to 0. And so, you've declared this global variable, and it's just basically it's sitting there and it's holding 0. And then every time we do something, for in this case, if you look there at the code, it's basically every time you click the guess button, I want you to, add 1 to the guesses remaining category there. So it's at 0, and then when I click the button, it takes, hey, basically just to kind of put this in rubber duck language as they call it. So I've got basically global guesses left to global guesses plus 1. So 0 plus 1 becomes 1. I click the button again, and now it's, again, think about that. So now global guesses to global guesses plus 1. So 1 plus 1 is now 2. And then we click the button again. So global guesses to global guesses plus 1, and 2 plus 1 becomes 3. And then, that process continues until, theoretically forever, unless we've got some kind of, conditional statement or, an if then or if then else going down that's going to stop it at some point. So that's an incremental counter. And basically it goes up, often by 1. It doesn't have to be like whatever you want it to be. It could be 5, 10, 15, whatever magic number you choose. We typically work in ones, but it could be anything. So basically every time you do something, it tacks on 1. So then on the flip side of that, we have the decremental counter. And you can this is like the exact opposite of the incremental counter. So here we're typically starting with some number other than 0. And so in the case here on the slide, you can see 10. So guesses remaining is set to 10. And again, every time we press the button, it goes down by 1. So, click the button, global guesses minus 1. So now it's at 9. I click the button again, global guesses minus 1. And now I'm at 8. And then I, click the button again, global guesses minus 1. Now I'm down to 7. And you can see below that, again, I've got now that sort of that conditional statement in there, this if-then situation. And we can see it's kind of a complex one because we've got a logic statement that needs 2 things to be true in order to trigger the then event. And it's cropped off there, so you're not seeing all of it. But hey, as long as global guesses is greater than or equal to 1, so that has to be true, and which means this also has to be true. So if your variable guess is equal to the secret number. So again, in the guessing game, just kind of recap, person enters a secret number and the other player is trying to guess it. So these 2 conditions have to be met, which basically means you have to have guesses left. So you've got 1 or more guesses left, and the number that you guessed is equal to the secret number. Then it triggers, a couple things, and 2 of them we can see there. 1, the win-lose label is set to you win, so that gets changed to that. And the lower higher label, which basically in the game says, hey, if you guess too high, it says guess lower, and if you guess too low, it says guess higher. But if you get it right, it says, congratulations, you won, or whatever. In this case, it just says congratulations. And so incremental counter and a decremental counter. Basically, every time you do something or something runs, it adds typically 1, but it could be really any number you want. And then on the flip side, the decremental counter, every time you do something, it subtracts 1. But again, it really could be any number. We typically work with 1s for the stuff that we're doing here. So incremental counter, decremental counter. And we will use these all the time. Again, you remember in all my beast mode, I was keeping score or keeping track of lives. I was using a decremental counter. And so lots of our apps will be doing these things. And then when we get into Python, we'll be using a lot of incremental counters and decremental counters to keep track of how many times things have triggered there. All right, so there you go. There's our vocab terms for the day, and I will talk to you guys later.